All right, shout out to Daniel Bill with the Buy Me a Coffee donation request, man. So we got the Genius of Ringo Starr. This is coming from the Drumeo YouTube channel. And I've been kind of neglecting the Drumeo reaction, so I apologize for that, you guys. But taking a look back on history, and we kind of been taking a look at all the Beatles members as they influence the music industry going forward. So let's see what's going on with this one, and I'll catch you guys at the end of the video.
Ringo played like a unit.
Give me.
I only ever wanted to be a drummer.
John, Paul, George, and Ringo played like a unit.
Give me Ringo. What would Ringo do?
Lead with my left.
4 drums. That's all Ringo Starr needed.
And the look on our faces was all like, fucking hell.
Ringo Starr, a drummer, a rock and roll pioneer, a singer, writer, and band leader, and the man responsible for more people picking up the sticks than ever before.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
His timeless drum parts, one-of-a-kind sound and approach to playing the drum kit, and understanding of how the drums can contribute to each song are all part of what makes Ringo so great.
The phenomenon of you guys will never happen again.
Join us as we dive into the genius of Ringo Starr.
What's up, Brandon? How you doing?
No one plays the drums quite like Ringo, and he truly has one of the most unique voices on the drum kit. But there's a couple of reasons why, and probably the most significant is this.
When I was born, I was left-handed, but my grandmother thought I was overpowered by witches and made me write with my right.
So I have a right-handed kit.
That's funny. Talk about the superstitions, bro. Being left-handed was a bad omen, dude. That's crazy.
By witches and made me write with my right.
So I have a right-handed kit, but I lead with my left.
Trust me, that's not as easy as it sounds if you're a right-handed player. You can see Ringo do this when he simply keeps time on the hi-hats. Or when he plays accents. And even when he plays drum fills. Simplicity is another key part of Ringo's style. He's far from the most technical drummer out there, but that's not what the Beatles' music needed.
The most timeless drummers are the ones that are the most simple.
Listen to what Ringo plays on the song In My Life.
There are places I remember.
Most drummers would.
And the funny thing is, like, when you listen to that, it's basic, but it also kind of blends in with the song. You almost barely hear the drums, like, in this little snippet that they played right here. But you feel it there.
Most drummers
like,
would play just a simple 8th note hi-hat groove throughout the song, but Ringo chooses only to play one note on the hi-hats through each bar. The simplicity and less is more approach is what makes this drum part so brilliant. Or take a song like Love Me Do, where Ringo only uses the kick, snare, and hi-hat foot throughout the entire song.
Man, did I just learn something? Hold up. Okay, so I'm not a pro at reading music, but that X means hi-hat, and that note, that the black ball of the note is depending on how steep the note is. Hold up.
Or take a song like
Yay!
Love Me Do, where Ringo only uses the kick, snare, and hi-hat foot throughout the entire song. When it comes to the way that Ringo plays the kit, he's known for his signature windshield wiper hi-hat playing. Greg Bissonette, who's been playing double drums with Ringo since 2003 in Ringo and the Roundheads and Ringo's All-Star Band, confirms this in one of his Drumeo lessons.
When I see him play, when we play side by side, his swing and the way he kind of dances while he plays, he'll throw his shoulder into it. Sometimes we get into this rocking motion when we're playing.
This approach and the way that he moves behind the drums ultimately has an effect on the swing that he has and adds into his grooves. But not only that, Ringo was also a big fan of jazz drummers like Cozy Cole. Apparently, Ringo wasn't really into listening to drum-focused records, but Cozy Cole's 1958 cover of the song Topsy Part 2 was one that he really got into.
Wow, I had no idea he was influenced by a black drummer. Wow, that's one thing I didn't ever even think of. But in a lot of times at that time period, like I could see it with the singers, but not less the musicians. So like, you know, you got your Johnny and Edgar Winters at that time. You might have had Nat King Cole, Chuck Berry around in the 50s. It was a lot of, you know, I might want to do a deep dive into like black artists in the 50s, because them are the ones that really seem like they set the tempo for the 60s and the 70s. So I would love to go take a look back at that.
1958 cover of the song Topsy Part 2 was one that he really got into. We're going to dive much deeper into Ringo's signature grooves and fills later on in this video, but when it comes to Ringo's style of playing, we can't overlook his phrasing on the drums, specifically the way he chose to end his drum fills. Most drummers would typically end their drum fills with a loud crash on the next downbeat, but Ringo would often leave it out. Right now, let me demo some examples for you, and a great one is from the song Let It Be, when the guitar solo transitions into the third chorus. Also in the song Hey Jude, where verse 2 transitions into the first chorus. And in the song Don't Let Me Down, where Ringo ends each phrase with another open hi-hat, where most drummers would choose to play a crash cymbal.
Oh, you played the crash cymbal at the start? Hold on, let me go back. Okay, crash. So I guess the X circle would be a crash cymbal. Hi-hat for the X. Okay, so the black X with that looks like a thimble or a thumb. I forgot the name of those things, but looks like that. That's the crash symbol right there. Okay, I think I see what's going on.
Ultimately, Ringo knows how to serve the song from the drums. Even though a lot of his parts sound quirky, his parts are musical and make sense for each song. It's been said a million times, but Ringo was the perfect drummer for the Beatles.
Ringo was the king of feel.
He's a song drummer. He actually used his kit in a very different way, a very creative way.
He's got the pocket, he's got the swing, he's got the feel, and that's what it's all about, is really making songs come alive.
I think we can all agree that Ringo's creativity and imagination help him create some pretty outside-the-box drum parts. Drum parts that you wouldn't typically hear on pop and rock songs from the 60s and 70s. The first one that comes to mind is Ticket to Ride from the album Help.
She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride.
I love that clip where you can literally just see Ringo standing in the background playing that part. And to put everything on the table about Ticket to Ride, this groove is not played metronomically perfect, but that's part of the beauty of it.
I can see that. Yeah, I can hear that. That's pretty dope.
Some may argue that beats 3 and 4 are played as quarter note triplets, and others will argue that only the last tom hit is played on a triplet partial. For the sake of this video, we've chosen to write only beat 4 with a triplet figure. Now, regardless of how you want to write it out, listen to Ringo, try to match where he places those flams, and that's the best way to learn how to play it. Now, speaking of quarter note triplets, this is a subdivision that Ringo actually uses quite often, like in the song Day Tripper.
Day Tripper.
And
I
She
can
Loves
hear
You.
it.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So while I was preparing for this video, I was scanning through all of the Beatles transcriptions we have inside of Drumeo. And of course, one of the best ones is the song Come Together. And I was actually able to load this up on Drumeo, slow down the parts, loop different sections, and it was just a great way to really internalize these classic parts that Ringo played. So we have nearly 200 Beatles transcriptions transcribed note for note inside of Drumeo. And if you want to check them out, you can click the link right below this video. It'll take you over to drumeo.com and you can get started with a 7-day free trial. And with that, let's move on and let's check out the legendary drum parts on Come Together.
I do like the drums on this song. I will admit that.
Now, there's not much that hasn't been said about this groove. It's absolutely legendary and anyone can recognize it instantly.
If you look at pictures of the Beatles playing, I'd have them tuned low and I'd have tablecloths on them to take out any ring.
Let's listen to the isolated drum track once more and then I'll play it on the kit.
That's so smart.
I know Ringo once explained in an interview that he played this part counterclockwise around the kit, starting on the floor tom.
Why we got to this is because, you see, I'm left-handed. See, I can't go. So I have to get this hand down to roll. So that's why everyone thought, wow, he's a genius. But all I was doing is trying to play backwards. So he goes. So it comes around this way.
But if you listen to the isolated track, you can hear the pitch descending. So I'll let you all debate this in the comments and you can decide for yourself. In the verse of the song, Ringo just plays eighth notes on the floor tom.
It's almost like Ringo's more famous in this time period than he was actually in the Beatles' time, you know? Being kind of drowned by the whole thing with John Lennon, George, and by his front-running mates. Like, it almost seems like he's more famous because he has another generation looking at his work and analyzing it and realizing how big of a genius he was, like a revolutionary he was playing his instrument. I like to see masters of their craft do their work, man.
Tom with quarter notes on the kick, which is a pretty interesting choice. Most drummers probably would have just played an eighth note hi-hat groove throughout this section with a backbeat on the snare drum, but Ringo approached this part differently.
Big contribution of Ringo was that he used his tom-toms as part of the composition.
If you're a drummer and you can do this and have people dancing, you're a fucking badass.
Another great example of Ringo using his toms in a creative way is in the bridge of the song Something off of Abbey Road. One of my favorite Ringo drum parts is his 8-bar drum solo on The End from Abbey Road. It's far from your typical rock drum solo, but it's classic Ringo. Eighth notes on the bass drum, broken 16th note fills on the toms, and a build in the last bar. And of course, we can't forget about the way Ringo navigated some of the more progressive and complicated Beatles music, like the bridge of Happiness is a Warm Gun, which jumps between 9/8 and 10/8.
Somebody tell me the difference between crash cymbal on the right and then the left. Does the levels in which they sit up affect the way they resonate you when you hit them? Because I'm trying to figure that out because the way he's playing this,
progressive and complicated
it seems
Beatles
like
music,
they do resonate
like the
at a
bridge of
different.
Happiness is a Warm Gun, which jumps between 9/8 and 10/8.
They do sound different though, don't they?
And the bridge in Here Comes the Sun, which goes between 5/4 and 4/4, or you could think of this as a phrase of 11/8, 4/4, and 7/8.
I would like to do something we don't often do.
Boy, drum playing is nothing but mathematics, man. So if I'd applied myself in high school, I probably would have been a natural good drummer.
Gives him a chance to sing, he doesn't often sing. And there he is, all out of key and nervous, singing act naturally. Ringo!
We've already covered some of Ringo's most famous drum parts, but here let's dive into some more of Ringo's signature drum grooves that he played with the Beatles, because chances are that's probably why you're here. So let's start off by looking at the song Tomorrow Never Knows from the Revolver album. On this track, Ringo plays the same groove through the entire song, and there's also some tambourine, reverse cymbal effects, and tape loops that you're hearing as well. This is the groove that Ringo plays on the kit. Just remember to play the ride cymbal with the shoulder of the drumstick. Next up is Ringo's groove on the song I Feel Fine. Paul McCartney has defined this style of drumming as "What Did I Say" drumming. He once said in an interview, there was a style of drumming on What Did I Say, which is a sort of Latin R&B that Ray Charles drummer Milt Turner played on the original record, and we used to love it. One of the big clinching factors about Ringo as the drummer in the band was that he could really play that so well. Next is one that Ringo plays near the end of When I'm 64, where he switches to using drumsticks from using brushes earlier. He also adds some triplets on the ride cymbal that sound pretty cool.
It seemed like what he did sounded kind of compressed a little bit.
Earlier. He also adds some triplets on the ride cymbal that sound pretty cool. Now, I know I said we were just going to be diving into some Beatles grooves here, but I figured we should probably include one from outside the Beatles catalog because Ringo has recorded so many other amazing drum parts. This next one is from the song Back Off Boogaloo, which Ringo released as a single in 1972. This song starts off with a snare drum pattern, and here's a clip of Ringo describing how it came to be.
Why we have that drum pattern is because he said, you know, give it that sort of bass drum. Like, and I can't do that and this. You know, I can't do them both together, so I just sort of cheated. So, okay, 2, 3, 4. So that's how it came to be done on the snare drum, because I couldn't just play that bass drum pattern.
Some of you may not have known, but Ringo was actually influenced by country artists like Hank Williams and Hank Snow, which is probably why he had such a great sounding shuffle and swing feel early on.
They're gonna put me in the movie. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film.
In the words of Ringo, I'm no good on the technical things. I'm your basic offbeat drummer with funny fills, because I'm really left-handed playing a right-handed kit. I can't roll around the drums because of that.
I can come the other way, okay? So my fills are never very rolly. It's usually it's like dong da da, do do ba bum, do da, do da 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 bum.
While this may be true, it didn't stop him from coming up with drum fills that were original, musical, and ultimately memorable. If you look around online, there's countless forums of people discussing Ringo's drumming and his drum fills. While doing research for this video, I came across an article that said this. He had a go-to formula that he would turn to again and again. 2 16th notes on the one beat, followed by a 16th note rest, and then a group of 4 or 5 16th notes.
You know, that reminds me of the saying that Bruce Lee had, like he doesn't fear the man who knows 1,000 different kicks. He fears the man who knows one, who has done one kick 1,000 times. So he mastered he mastered the basics of what he likes and was able to improvise off of that once the timing was down. So he assimilated that with his own, assimilated that so well to where it gave him room to be creative and be innovative. And so it's like nowadays, like especially in my generation, you know, we try to hurry the process. But when you look back at these older artists, man, they really, really are good at the basics, like, and they build off of that. But then all younger generations come in and they're talented, but they don't have no basics. So it's like, yeah, you can do the crossover, but can you lead an offense? Like, you know what I mean? So it's a weird thing.
One beat, followed by a 16th note rest, and then a group of 4 or 5 16th notes. Yes, this might be generalizing things, but I think there's a lot of truth to this, and it shows that Ringo played to his strengths. Inside of Drumeo, we have nearly 200 note-for-note Beatles transcriptions, and while I was preparing for this video, looking through all of them, these fills appeared over and over again. Ringo also used a lot of triplets when it came to the drum fills he played with the Beatles. Just listen to songs like Oh Darling and A Day in the Life. Here's 2 great examples of Ringo's triplet fills. The first is from the second chorus of Your Blues. And the second is from the intro of Tell Me Why. One song we haven't talked about yet, which is one of the staple Ringo Starr drum recordings, is the song Rain.
The only thing I've always said is that Rain, I've never played like that since, I don't think, because it was busy.
Yeah, that is busy.
Their first meeting with the American press brings forth an interview laced with quips and humor. You'd laugh, too, with a gross of $17 million last year.
That's what I want.
I don't think there's a drummer out there who's had the reach and impact that
That's
Ringo's
what I
had.
want.
Because of Ringo, many of you watching this video
sorry,
are playing drums today, and that's legacy right there. But I think a lot of the time we get so focused on who's the fastest or who's the most technical, and we forget about the most important thing, and that's the music. Ringo truly understands the role of a drummer and what it means to support and contribute to the music. One thing I love about Ringo is that he never stayed in one place musically.
It's so great, the diversity of those songs. Right. And that's what was great with the Beatles. Yep. We weren't just stuck in like the rock mode, the heavy metal mode, this mode, that mode. We were, we could play anything, really.
He progressed as the band progressed, and you can really hear that in his drum parts, especially when you listen to earlier tracks like Twist and Shout,
Twist and shout.
And Please Please Me, and compare them to what Ringo was playing on later tracks like Helter Skelter and I Want You, She's So Heavy, which many considered to be some of the earliest heavy metal tracks.
That's interesting, because I didn't consider Helter Skelter heavy metal at all. But I was thinking about their recording process. Like, would it be that they would lay everything and Ringo would go last? It doesn't sound like Ringo would go first and then they build on top of that. It sounds like John and Paul and George would lead, and then Ringo would follow up with his stuff. because I believe sometimes you just got to believe that that's the only way that you could really come up with something. Nah, I didn't consider Helter Skelter that.
Ringo also continues to keep the double drumming tradition alive with his all-star band, where he currently plays with Greg Bissonette. But Ringo has also performed double drums with other drummers over the years as well. But when it comes to Ringo's legacy, I think these musicians will explain it best.
No one had ever really done that on record before.
Ringo was the king of feel.
I mean, when he's playing behind you, you see a lot of these bands when they're playing, they're looking around at the drummer like, you know, is he gonna speed up? Is he gonna slow down? You don't have to look with Ringo. He's there.
He's a song drummer.
The music is just so organic. He listens to the vocals. He says, I never wanted to fill and get in the way of vocals. I'll play a fill only when necessary and it works for the song.
He really had a knack for coming up with really interesting musical parts.
He brought drums out from the back and made people listen to them.
He listened to the song once and he knows exactly what to play.
I don't believe when I'm involved it's ever too much work.
And then I just shook Ringo's arm and he was so good about it.
It's not like you need to do this. I mean,
it is what I need. I need to play.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
All right, that's a wrap on the genius of Ringo Starr. I know Ringo's career has been covered extensively through documentaries, interviews, books, and even the more recent Get Back series. But I hope this video gave you some new perspectives on Ringo's drumming.
It did, and I
hope
learned
it
something
inspires
too.
you to go check out some more of Ringo's playing. Now, down in the comments, I'd love to know one thing that you've learned from listening to Ringo Starr. Also, don't forget we have the entire Beatles discography transcribed for you inside of Drumeo, so you can learn all of Ringo's drum parts note for note. And
Ooh, man. Shout out to Drumeo for that amazing documentary on the genius of Ringo Starr, man. Shout out to Daniel Bildo with the Buy Me a Coffee donation request as well. And I even learned how to read drums on a musical sheet or drum sheet. I guess you would call that a drum sheet. But I learned what some of those symbols means just by listening. But anyway, I like seeing stuff like that, man, because next time I react to a Beatles song, it feels so much better because now I understand what's going on as far as like his thought process, his style. I'm able to kind of see and hear and feel things that I wasn't able to pick on previous reactions. So that's definitely one way to kind of help yourself like betterly understand the music, man. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Please remember to go support Drumeo's channel. Tell them Mug sent you, and I'll catch you guys at another one. All right.